This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It is Tuesday, October 29th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann, co-host, along with my son Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased, uncensored news, information, analysis. We got to cut through this fog of disinformation, these huge hyperbole headlines that are meaningless or distractions to other things. And therein lies our role. You're listening to the only show where we present the news in 3D. We look beyond the headlines and bylines, beyond the noise and confusion of what we are presented, and bring you the news behind the news. For the new listeners, and I want to thank everyone who has sent an email saying, "Hey, I'm a new listener," and we do have we've received numerous emails here over the last couple of days from people all over the country. In fact, all over the world. We have a pastor in Ecuador. I just want to say hello. Thank you very much for a minister in Ecuador. Thank you for sending that email, and thanks for listening. Folks, we broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Our home base on the Internet is HomelandSecurityUS.com, and we're simulcast by the Christians United Broadcasting Network. Folks, for alternative audio, you can tune into the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. That's the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your belief and trust in us as we walk through this minefield of current events together. We are a listener-supported broadcast, and we want to thank everyone who has helped keep us on the air and has helped keeping us on the air. Your financial contributions are very much appreciated, as are your prayers, and even your notes of support, and you're telling a friend about our program, because all of this helps build this network of this mission that we're on. And Joe, I think we're on a mission, don't you? I mean,
yeah, we are definitely on a mission, and the mission
it's a mission of truth.
It was put in our lap. God put us in a position and gave us a platform. We didn't ask for it, but we are blessed to have it and have the ability to be a voice of reason out there, a voice of reason, a voice of
an alternative voice, yeah,
the Lord and His Word also, in a time where this globe is filled with deception and hate and anger, and things continue to get worse and worse.
And indeed, and we're going to make it, though. I really believe that we will make it. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see November 1st, if we make it past what Neil Cavuto reported on, the potential riots for the couple dollars in food stamp devaluation.
I was thinking about that.
We played that clip yesterday.
Right. It seems funny to me because it's my understanding that most of that money went to the New York area.
Oh, I thought it went to global warming research.
Well, no. But I'm interested to see how that. I haven't confirmed this, but the initial information I got was most of it went to the New York City and up toward the eastern seaboard. I don't quite
For what?
get. For the riot,
the $80 million.
Yes. Which just begs the question: why there? Now, I could be wrong on this. These are the initial reports, my initial findings. But if you live in the New York City, Boston, and even we'll say from Boston to D.C. in that corridor, that seems to be where the majority of that money has been given to, from what I understand.
We do have some news on this here, and it looks like I put a title in here. Now, food bank CEO suggests welfare cuts may spark riots.
Right.
This was a headline from today, and we have a few headlines, but this one here from Prison Planet: riots always begin typically the same way, when people cannot afford to eat food. The CEO of the largest food bank in America has suggested that the planned cuts in food stamp benefits set to take effect on Friday could spark riots. Marguerite Purvis, the president and CEO of the food bank in New York City, told Salon.com that the expiration of the stimulus funds, which will see the supplemental nutritional assistance program reduced by $5 billion, will have immediate impact and represent a recipe for civil unrest. If you look across the world, riots always begin typically the same way, when people cannot afford to eat food. Adding, the families face the daunting prospect of losing a whole week's worth of food every month. The nationwide cut will take 76 million meals off the table of poverty-stricken New Yorkers alone, equating to about 16 meals per month for a family of 3. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities has labeled the cut to the SNAP program unprecedented in depth and breadth. Now, it's my understanding that the cuts were only $11 to up to $36.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Per person.
Correct. And then I've been getting email after email after email about this totally cutting out the entire month of November. I've been getting emails about this. Have you been getting emails? I mean, I seriously, I must have 100 emails asking me about
between the dentists and doctors. For my wife, I haven't had a chance to go through all my emails, or a lot of them, in the last couple of days. But no, I haven't seen that, and I haven't heard a lot about that. But that would make, I hope that's not the case, but that would make sense as to why all this.
Well, I contacted our local. In fact, one of my neighbors works for a state welfare agency, and asked about the whether or not the benefits are supposed to be cut, or beyond that the $11 or the 5%, or what is it? I'm sorry, the $11 to $36 range.
Yeah, that number comes from a report that we saw when they were first talking about cutting the program altogether. People were saying,
Well, she said no. She said no. They have nothing in their system, and this now I asked, and she's speaking, of course, for Pennsylvania, that the food assistance program is not being cut or not being shut off for the month of November, but she acknowledged the cuts that we discussed yesterday, and said yes, those are indeed taking place effective November 1st.
Why cut back now? Your share of the national debt is now $1.1 million. Each U.S. taxpayer now has a federal debt liability of $1.1 million and rising. It says, remember when that President Obama boasts the federal deficit, the shortfall between annual revenues and spending, is declining? Of course, the primary reason for the decline is the sequester, but which was his idea, but now adamantly opposes. The public tends to focus on the national debt, which just passed the $17 trillion markup, up from $10.6 trillion when Obama took office. But that figure pales in comparison to the federal government's long-term unfunded liabilities, money the government is obligated to pay over and above the revenues it is estimated to receive. According to the U.S. debt clock, long-term unfunded liabilities are at $126 trillion, a $1.1 million liability for each U.S. taxpayer. The main driver of that astronomical number is two of our major entitlement programs, Social Security and Medicare. Now, I don't understand why they call Social Security an entitlement program if people have paid into it their whole lives.
It's a very good point. One would think it's like an insurance program where you pay premiums and then you collect the premiums, at a date certain. But once again, like a Ponzi scheme, you run out of. It was never intended to work.
Right.
I say that because if you understand the Cloward and Piven aspect of this and the knowledge about this, it could never work because you had the numbers were against it. It would be like a pyramid scheme where you just run out of money, and so this is where we're at. So they have to bump the retirement age, and they will. You're never going to retire.
Running out of money. Federal Reserve balance sheet not seen returning to normal till at least 2019. The Federal Reserve balance sheet, which is fast approaching $4 trillion in total assets, won't return to normal until sometime between mid-2019 and 2021. The research suggests the Fed could go as long as 6.5 years without generating enough income to make annual remittances of cash to the U.S. Treasury as it normally does that is, in an extreme scenario, the researchers don't envision. The Fed's holding of Treasury and mortgage securities have soared since its beginning experimenting with bond buying programs during the 2008 financial crisis and quantitative easing. Why do we have to worry about working and making money when we can actually physically just make the money?
You don't expect me to answer that, do you?
No. We kind of jumped the gun on the intro here. We have Stan Deo coming up
That's
in
right.
the second hour tonight.
God bless Stan, man.
Yeah, I spoke with him. He
you did?
Just on Skype here before the show, and he said, yeah, he's coming on. He said he had whooping cough, which he said is almost gone.
Maybe I should send him some canine medication. Or no, that's whooping cough is the child's disease, isn't it? Or isn't it for children, or usually attracted or gotten by children? Whooping cough?
Interestingly enough, today, I always wanted to talk about this anyway. I heard a commercial from our local Fox affiliate, or not Fox affiliate, whatever, 1400
that's
AM Talk Radio.
Yeah.
And it was a commercial of Jennifer Lopez saying how whooping cough affects so many children, and that as adults, you really need 3 to 4 vaccines, whooping cough vaccines.
Oh, I heard that. I heard that when I was out taking care of some things today. I heard that.
They weren't talking about children. They were talking about adults.
Right. And there's this new vaccination campaign going on where Jennifer Lopez is apparently the spokesperson or the front person for that. Don't ask me what. This is one more thing we have to look into, and I suspect it'll trace back to the CDC and their version of, and of course the whole vaccination mindset, and I have a problem with that, of course. Joe, before we get into anything, I want to just let people know there's an article by Teresa Monroe Hamilton. I got a lot of respect for her. She writes for various publications talking about gun control. And I think this is very important because right now what we're seeing here is we're still seeing a shortage of ammunition, plus very high prices on ammunition. This is all part of the disarmament program for America. I know we're jumping around here a little bit, but I
registered or unregistered ammunition?
Well, this is just ammunition. Of course, we don't have registering. We don't have registered ammunition right now, right?
That story yesterday.
Yesterday with the D.C. guy, yeah. Well, there are numerous alarming reasons why our government and the military have been buying up all the ammunition. Here's one that you might not have heard. And this kind of really, this made me do a double take. Obama and the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, just shut down the last lead smelting plant in the United States. They raised the EPA regulations by tenfold, and it would have cost the plant $100 million. That one plant alone to comply with the regulations. So you can own all of the guns you want, but if you can't get the ammunition, you're out of luck. See, they're going after the ammunition. Lead smelting plant. At first, I never really gave that a thought. And of course, if you use the EPA to choke out the create undue hardships for these corporations and companies, the lead manufacturers or those people who produce lead, well, there you go. Now,
people. I mean, you can make bullets at home. You just have to acquire the right materials. Now, obviously, lead
is helpful.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, get it while you can.
Right. Well, remember when Obama promised his minions that he was working on gun control behind the scenes? Well, now, welcome to it. It's all of the domestic mined lead, the ore, will have to be shipped overseas, refined, and then shipped back to the United States. Now, not only will ammo now even be harder to come by, the demand and the process of supply will cause the price to skyrocket even more than it already has. So, folks, you've got to understand what's going on here.
And what about police officers, law enforcement agencies? Where are they going to be getting their ammunition from? Are they going to have their prices driven up, or are they going to start raiding houses to get their ammo?
Don't forget the law enforcement under the various orders executive orders signed by Obama and his predecessors. Multiple predecessors can, in fact, take your ammunition in matters of an emergency. But see, the EPA, which is really an evil entity in my view, and I share that view with Teresa Monroe Hamilton, has said the following. The U.S. EPA said the company, this is the lead smelting company, made a business decision to shut down the smelter instead of installing pollution control technologies needed to reduce sulfur dioxide in the lead emissions as required by the Clean Air Act. The Doe Run Company announced last year that it dropped plans to build a new lead processing facility. Well, the EPA is really the mob enforcer. It's like, well, the EPA is saying, hey, we didn't make them shut down. No, they just made it impossible for them to continue operating. They couldn't pay the fees, the extortion fees, so they just shut down. This is the mob mentality. This is the Chicago mob in more ways than one.
And this goes back to, Karl Marx, what he and his government would do was use different aspects of economic controls, controlling the means of production and the ability to produce.
Correct. That's right. Well, look, this is all backdoor gun control. All of this is part of backdoor gun controls. Moving forward, while we're distracted by the shiny trinkets and the new iPhones or whatever those things are that are coming out, what are those things that everyone's talking about? iPhones or?
I don't know.
Maybe people are talking. I don't know. But our Second Amendment rights are just about gone. Obama we've got to understand, he is a Marxist Muslim dictator who is very savvy at his Marxist agenda. And he has flanked the Second Amendment by doing this. So we need to take a look at this. We need to understand what is going on, and we need to prepare. So we're not trying to cause any type of, everyone run out and buy ammunition, but understand, I would buy it if you can get it. And I would treat it almost the same as...
Buy it from the Hagmann Ammunition Company.
Yeah. Well, that'd be a short sale. But I just made me think of that old when Rush Limbaugh it was really good back in the day. He would have a sale that said ended in 90 seconds, or if you can get here in the first next 90 seconds, or it was a stupid commercial. But the point is, yeah, nice try. But folks, understand, I would treat this like I would treat purchasing gold and silver. Lead's a precious metal at this point, given the fact that the last smelting plant was forced out of business by the EPA. All right. So that's that.
We've been talking about a number of people getting cut from their health insurance plans. Over 300,000 in Florida. Got a quick audio clip here we're going to play from an insurance CEO as to why people are getting cut and what he says that they're not cutting people.
Buckle up, people.
Why are you cutting these people from their insurance?
Well, David, we're not cutting people. We're actually transitioning people. What we've been doing is informing folks that their plan doesn't meet the test of the essential health benefits. Therefore, they have a choice of many options that we make available through the exchange. And in fact, with subsidy, many people will be getting better plans at a low cost. So this really is a transition. And in fact, the 300,000 figure is the entire year. So it's really...
So we're not cutting your plan. We're transitioning you. We're not cutting your health care. We're just making you come over to from your private plan to Obamacare. Insurance companies aren't sending out cancellation letters. They're helping people transition into Obamacare. If companies changed the insurance plans, they would have to notify people who have the opportunity to have another policy, says House and Ways and Means Committee ranking member Sander Levin. In fact, according to Levin, the so-called cancellation notices merely help people transition to a new policy. How nice are these people? We're not getting people. We're actually transitioning people.
Goes back to the definition of the word is.
What we've been doing is informing folks that their plan doesn't meet the test of the essential health benefits. Therefore, they have a choice of many options that we make available through the healthcare exchange. The argument may exonerate Florida Blue, but the fig leaf doesn't cover Obamacare nearly as well as Levin suggested, given that the test of essential health benefits comes from Obamacare and invalidated the previously accepted insurance policies. So, you guys are not receiving cancellation notices. They're just transition notices. Do you like that?
Yeah. Well, mine says cancellation on my letter. I don't know.
It's just because you haven't transitioned yet.
Oh, I have to transition. Okay. Well, all I can say this, ladies and gentlemen, is this law or this health care plan is completely dependent upon numbers. If they don't get the numbers of the young people.
When you're done, I want to play this other audio.
Well, I just want to say that I'm not going to participate, and that I'm saying that for all of the listeners, for the record, for those people in the IRS, the EPA, the IRS, the NBA, the FLA,
so if you don't participate,
NAACP, the ACLU, I don't care who's listening. I'm not participating, period.
And all those out there who are listening and those in the chat, if you guys don't participate in healthcare, how many expect to get a penalty or a fee? Do you expect to get a fee?
I expect to be on the receiving end of something bad.
Okay,
but then I'm not going to participate in that either. So seriously, at some point you got to stop playing the game.
I want to play this audio from Lawrence O'Donnell, who says there is no individual mandate. It was suspended permanently. Nobody will be fined for not buying insurance.
Oh, good. Oh, yippee. Okay, here we go.
It's 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Listen to this.
Okay, so for you White House correspondents out there who didn't understand that answer, Jay Carney is going to say it again, and he's going to say it in response to a follow-up question from the actual White House correspondent who didn't understand that answer.
So if the website's not fixed, will people still have to pay the fine?
As written, the law makes clear that people who do not have access to affordable care due to a state not expanding Medicaid or other factors will not be penalized.
So those factors can be this website
again,
having the
that's
same
how the law is written.
Notice the White House correspondent suffers absolutely no embarrassment about not knowing how the law is written. But no one in Washington is embarrassed about not knowing how the Affordable Care Act is written, especially the individual mandate provision, which I began quoting on MSNBC programs 3.5 years ago. If you have heard me quote the law or have read it yourself, you know that the most complete answer to the White House correspondent question, will people still have to pay the fine, is that no one ever really has to pay the fine in the individual mandate, because the IRS has been specifically forbidden in writing, in law, in the Affordable Care Act from ever actually pursuing either civil or criminal remedies to collect those fines from anyone. The individual mandate is the only provision in the tax code that was written deliberately to be essentially unenforceable. Now, I've done dramatic readings of the statute many times over the years here, but if a White House correspondent cannot understand Jay Carney's very clear language, then I guess understanding the legislative language in law would be like, impossible. So, of course, the answer to the big question of the day is no. No one will have to pay a fine if they can't sign up for health insurance through the federal government's website because the website is broken. And oh, by the way, the deep, dark secret that no one in Washington continues to comprehend is that no one really has to pay the fine, which means tonight we have breaking news. It's right here. Obamacare individual mandate suspended permanently. The White House has issued these special rules about the individual mandate. Special rules A, waiver of criminal penalties. In the case of any failure by a taxpayer to timely pay any penalty imposed by this section, such taxpayer shall not be subject to any criminal prosecution or penalty with respect to such failure. B, limitations on liens and levies. The Secretary shall not file notice of lien with respect to any property of a taxpayer by reason of any failure to pay the penalty imposed by this section, or levy on any such property with respect to such failure. The language of the special rules suspending the collection of the penalty of the individual mandate forever was hidden by the White House until tonight in a place they were sure no White House correspondents would ever find it. On page 131 of the Affordable Care Act, signed into law by President Obama.
Now, I don't believe a word he says. They did not hire 16,000 plus IRS agents. They did not dictate that money could be taken from your bank account. They did not have Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Nancy Pelosi, all these people saying, well, if you do not participate and don't have health insurance, you're not paying your fair share. Therefore, the Supreme Court did not rule that it is a tax if you do not pay for your health insurance, or you do not apply, or you do not have health insurance. You're going to get a penalty for it. They said it was a tax. They didn't rule on that because it's not. Why would they go through all that process if it was actually in the initial law? That is one of the biggest pieces of lying propaganda crap from MSNBC I've ever seen. And that's a lot of propaganda from that station.
To believe that would be really, I just, when I heard that, I really thought it was, I didn't know what to think. But seriously, look, you've got, in 2013, Obamacare and the accompanying regulation, which compromise its basic construct, is right now 10,535 pages long. That's 11.5 million words, 11,588,500 words, give or take a few. When it was written, of course, when it was passed, it was 2,700 pages, 381,517 words. Now, think about this for a second. Back in 2010, when the Affordable Care Act was passed, it was 2,700 pages long and 381,517 words. Again, cut me some slack on the words. 3 years later, with the codified regulations and rules which comprise its construct, it's now, what would that be, 4 times that? 10,535 pages long and 11.5 million words. 30 times larger than the initial bill itself. And it's so massive that you're telling me that Lawrence O'Donnell, Ed Schultz, or whoever it might be would know? Of course not. Now, real quick, I want to mention this because this is an investigation that I've been doing some research, and it really is complex. If you can just imagine taking a colander of cooked spaghetti and trying to line all the spaghetti up on the counter in a line, it feels like that's what I'm doing here. But I've gotten a lot of emails about CGI. And, of course, we know that CGI is they won the no-bid contract for the website, the web portal for healthcare.gov. Well, if you follow the breadcrumbs, if you follow the trail, the Obamacare web program was developed by CGI through a no-bid contract. And it was also not only through a no-bid contract, it was also with indefinite delivery and indefinite quantity designation. It was awarded through this little-known federal contracting system called ID/IQ, which I just stated was government lingo for indefinite delivery and indefinite quantity. Well, so what, you might say? The big news, at least the news that we see with Drudge and all the people are saying, well, this goes back to Michelle Obama's alumni, classmate, and friend, and of course, this is cronyism. Well, it's much bigger than that. It's much deeper than that. I'm just going to give you a taste of what this is all about, and more later. The CGI, it's a huge multinational corporation. They own Silver Oak Solutions. If you're not familiar with that company, you might be familiar with the PRISM Cyber Collection System, PRISM. Well, they, like I said, Silver Oak Solutions, which is owned by CGI, developed the PRISM Cyber Collection Systems for the NSA. And of course, this was revealed by Edward Snowden. But it doesn't stop there. So you've got Edward Snowden talking about the NSA spying program, but it's more than that. Because CGI, folks, if you recall, CGI in 2010 purchased the Stanley Incorporated. Does that name ring any bells to you? If not, well, Stanley Incorporated, along with the Analysis Corporation, those companies were reportedly responsible for having employees that took part in the 2008 passport office break-in. Remember that John Brennan has ties to these various corporations. John Brennan, who is now the director of the CIA. Is this all about healthcare? The CGI website interface, the awarding of that contract, is the story really about Michelle Obama being cozy with one of the principals of CGI? No. That's just the shine and glitter and the trinkets. The real story here is what's happening in the background. And through my investigation, which is not ready for prime time yet, but I want to bring this up because it's just a wonderful person had emailed me today about this, and I just want to say thank you so much. There is a definite connection between Brennan, John O. Brennan, the Muslim convert that is running the CIA, CGI, whether it's via the NSA route or through CGI, as it would be through the Stanley Incorporated and Analysis Corporation, and the passport office break-in. So you've got to look at this and say, well, wait a minute, why, for example, why would Brennan be? Now, Brennan has the credentials, the street creds to run the CIA. He was 25 years with the CIA for 25 years. Then he was National Security Advisor for National Security Affairs with Obama when he was on the campaign trail, and then Obama the president, putative president anyway, and then of course now the CIA, head of the CIA. So what does this all mean? Well, it means the sleight of hand. You've got to think a lot bigger than what we're thinking. This is not about capitalism or crony capitalism. This is more than that. That's just the diversion behind what's going on. The federal officials, they considered only one firm to design the Obama Health Insurance Exchange website. That was CGI. They didn't open their contracting processes to any type of competitive public solicitation. No. They wanted CGI. But do they want it to enrich the friends of the Obama people? There's more to that. There is much more to that. In awarding the healthcare.gov contract, again, this was awarded through this indefinite delivery and indefinite quantity mandate. If you look at CGI, they've had their hands in much smaller, or much more, I should say, much more, many more things than we see now. They had their hands in Health and Human Services back in 2007. And of course, Judy McLeod wrote about CGI being involved in the gun registry up in Canada, Canada, and all these surveillance systems, online surveillance systems for medical purposes. Well, between 2009 and 2013, government officials awarded 185 separate task orders or contracts to CGI, totaling $678 million for work of all types, according, if you go to usaspending.gov, which is a federal spending database, you can research this for yourself. The Obama website design contract was for $93 million. Now, we all heard that. But once again, who exactly is CGI? And how do they relate to the government? Well, as I said, CGI owns Silver Oak Solutions. They specialize in business construction platforms which take the advantage of large government contracts. If you look into what they control under their proprietary development statement, it says this: through the development of its own proprietary spend management offerings called PRISM, SOS grew from under $1 million in revenue in 1999 to over $23 million in 2005. Folks, in 6 years, they increased their revenue by $22 million. They emerged as the pioneer and clear market leader in government in the public sector, which represents a $100 billion, that's billion with a B, total market opportunity. PRISM, you've heard this because NSA whistleblower. You would have heard of this because NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden and the UK Guardian from July of 2013 was one of the first publications, go figure, to first reveal the NSA super secret cyber spying program on the Americans. In fact, if you remember, there was this PowerPoint, PRISM, and then / US 984XN overview, and that's what got the ball rolling about the NSA scandal, the PRISM scandal. Now, the tech giants, of course, they denied allowing NSA direct access to the servers, yet through the PRISM program, they have been proven to be, at worst, liars, at the very least, incompetent, and I would not call them incompetent. Now, there's two different versions of the PRISM scandal that have and are emerging, but just suffice it to say this, and I'll close with this. The eavesdropping, and I use that term purposely, or the surveillance, whether it is actual listening to recordings or capturing of voice, telephone, and Skype and other conversations, or the actual reading of emails. This goes far beyond merely capturing, for example, the originating call number, the time, and then the destination call and the time, and the length of time that the call lasted. Now, this goes to content. Why do you think they're building all of these huge facilities It's to store the servers that house the digital information that has been captured through this system. So CGI is heavily involved in this.
And I'm going to take this a step further because there is a bunch of information that is waiting to be stored. That is the health information through medical devices. They are going to need a place to store this. Now, we have news today on Pentagon's DARPA program working on reading brains in real time. We told you and played audio clips for you a few weeks back on the President's Brain Initiative. Now, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, is investing $70 million to develop a new implant that can track and respond to brain signals in real time. Subnets, it's called, the system-based neurotechnology for emerging therapeutics, is to gather new information via more advanced brain implants in order to reach the next level of effective neuropsychological treatment. DARPA is hoping to have a new implant developed within 5 years. It goes on to say that they want to be able to establish themselves in an individual's brain. The agency also wants to implement and be able to record the signs of illness in real time and deliver treatments to monitor the treatment's effectiveness. It also says that this subnets, this from DARPA's website, subnets is a push towards an innovative, informed, and precise neurotechnological therapy to produce major improvements in quality of life for service members, veterans, who have very few options with existing therapies. Now, we have a document here, the Universal Health Coverage at the Center of Sustainable Development, where they talk about economic and social collaboration for universal health coverage as an operational goal, which should include access to all key intervention programs. This speaks to the medical countermeasures. And in order to do this, they say that issuing and having universal health coverage, a global human or affordable health care act, will enhance health. It will be sustainable. It will enhance sustainable human and economic development. Some of the what are they called? The medical countermeasures.
Right.
The data that we're talking about, the data that's going to be stored. What they want to do with the rollout of Obamacare in the end, through the medical devices that they want to implant on people, is be able. A huge part of their in their documents is this medical countermeasures. They want, some of their goals are to increase the nation's preparedness to address threats as a result of terrorism, pandemic influenza, and emergent infectious diseases, improve global public health through international collaboration, including research and information sharing, by harmonizing existing regulatory standards to work towards the harmonization of standards on new biological products to promote global public health.
Okay, stop right there for a second, because you breezed right past that word terrorism.
Yes, well,
okay.
Well, I just want the bill, the All Hazards Pandemic Preparedness Reauthorization Act?
Yes.
Okay.
We spoke of, yes. Yes, you spoke of that.
There is a national framework response plan, something along those lines. I have all the documents over there. But yes, they are talking about terrorism as increasing the nation's preparedness to address threats as a result of terrorism.
Okay, stop right there for a second, because I just want to say this. If you don't think, folks, what's taking place here is big or bigger than you're being told, you're wrong, because here's the deal. Just during one single – and think about this. One single day last year alone, just one day, under the auspices of what you was talking about, just that word terrorism inserted in that – just that word terrorism. One single day, NSA Special Operations Branch collected – you ready for this? 444,743 not emails, but email address books from Yahoo, 105,068 from Hotmail, 82,857 from Facebook, 33,697 from Gmail, 22,881 from other internet service providers. That is what Snowden leaked. That was one day. The NSA Special Source Operations Branch collected that. And not emails, but your address books under the platforms I mentioned, under the pretext of preventing terrorism. Now, earlier, or each day, I'm going back to the presentation here. The NSA collects contracts. Did you drop your watch or something, or what was that?
That was the wireless mouse from my other computer.
All right. You okay?
Right. Yeah, I'm fine. Right. I don't know about the mouse.
All right. Well, sort of
all these papers on the desk here. It's
all right. But the NSA collects contracts from an estimated 500,000 buddy lists on live chat services. When you sign on to live chat services, you're actually, because of the terms of service, you're actually opening up your buddy list or your contact list on live chat services, as well as from the inbox displays of web-based email accounts. So don't think that just because you're using a web-based email service that you're any less or any more secure. You're not. The collection is it does involve cooperation with numerous internet service providers as well as Microsoft and other companies. So you think about this. But let me go back just real quick. This mandatory taxation program, the Obamacare that we're talking about, it has the enforcement arm of the IRS. You mentioned the 16,000 approved IRS agents. Did you look at this because it contains no baseline income verification within the legislation itself, but it's being implemented by this data registry collection platform. The same platform, and this is important because this is where things get really ugly, is the same platform that provides the National Security Agency with data intelligence on you and I. So you see where I'm going with this? What I'm saying here is you've got the web-based portal that everyone says, well, man, it's a mess, it's screwing up, and everyone's eyes are on this massive screw up. Well, really, is it really screwing up? Well, no. I mean, at face, it is, but it is collecting. It's data mining. It is data mining. Every time you sign on, it is data mining. And you could take that to the bank. You could say, "Oh, you're just being a real, a real jerk and making something out of nothing." No. There are so many plans from these different government agencies through Obamacare, Health and Human Services. I mean, they have the FDA Fast Track Initiative, the Sentinel Initiative, the Health and Human Services Open Government Plan. All of these, the Commissioner's Transparency Task Force, the Global Harmonization Task Force, that are talking about using biological products, tissue-based products, and implementing these to have collaboration on information sharing of health information sharing, international health information sharing. And there's another part of that. That's right, international. And then let me read. By the way, CGI is based in Canada, the main headquarters. And part of this about medical devices here, one of the PDFs I have here is a medical device regulations global overview and guiding principles, and it talks about how advertising is a powerful influence on the people. Well, they're setting up policies that prohibits the misleading or fraudulent advertisement on medical devices through regulation and legislation. As people become more health conscious, the development of mobile health or home use medical devices is rapidly expanding, and government should respond to inquiries and complaints about public or healthcare professionals and cancel or take action to prohibit negative advertisements to empower the government for the sale and distribution of devices. Wait, I think I zoned out on that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
No.
What do you mean
government, it says, if the government has not already passed legislation, this should be done to prohibit misleading or fraudulent advertisement of medical devices, as advertising is a powerful influence on people. A prohibition on negative or misleading and fraudulent advertising of health devices, mobile health, should be essential legislation. Basically saying that if you were to run an ad saying that it's the mark of the beast.
Right. I get that.
There's a law against that. You should not be able to do that.
What if we say, hey, this is setting up the mark of the beast system? Is that against the law?
Not yet, but this is what they're saying. This is a guideline to policy.
So if I was to create a banner, we'll say, and put it on my website, which, by the way, is HomelandSecurityUS.com. But if I was to create a banner and put it on the website saying that Obamacare is ushering in the mark of the beast system through this medical registry, the RFID specifically, or fashion it so it suggests that this is ushering the mark of the beast, I am violating federal law?
Not yet, but you will be. That's exactly right. They don't have a date for that yet, but they're saying that this was a United Nations guidance.
Since when does the United Nations
since the United Nations has passed with the World Health Organization, the World Bank, other United Nations entities, and shareholders or stakeholders passed Resolution 6781 on global health and foreign policy for 2012. They are now in the forefront of science and technology innovation, supporting mobile health systems, pilot innovations in test countries in the fields of mobile health and medical devices.
Okay.
Now, I know a lot of this is gibberish to many people, but Pastor Langford talked about this
very much.
Yeah, he covered the real important aspects of this Obamacare and what it's rolling out. But they have a plan. The United States is part of this plan of this global public health through international programs engaging in international activities using a range of mechanisms to realize a global public health goal, regulatory harmonization and convergence,
right,
regulatory capacity building, information sharing, international standards, development and collaborative research, cross-cutting approach through developing through 4 objectives described below.
These things?
I don't know.
Who writes these
I think
things?
A computer does.
No, you know what? I mean, these pencil neck geeks out there that can't, I
mean, they have in here. It's basically, from what I understand, in this one document, they're laying out all the different ways they can give reasons for and regulate chips, and one of them is to monitor the effects of vaccines. They call it, like I said, the medical countermeasures.
Right.
Basically, you can have a mark or an implant on you, so when they give you a vaccine, they can see how you react to it. The medical countermeasures, when speaking of terrorism or pandemic preparedness and influenza and emergent infectious diseases, they'll say, well, you need to have, they call it a high priority medical products, including medical countermeasures. You need to have this chip so we can monitor how the disease is spreading throughout the population. That way we can mitigate the effects of it and, quarantine the areas, and we know how it's spreading and where it's spreading.
Well,
kind of like, how they release the gases into the subway, how they spread.
Yes, and that's happened before. Yes, it's happened before, and it happened in a mall. I remember now I had gotten some information here within the last month about a story I reported on about a mall in the Midwest that was, I don't know, back in 2005, where they released the gas through the ventilation system. Now,
you hear all the words I'm using with international.
Yes.
This is an FDA document I'm reading from.
An FDA.
FDA. So it is the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research Strategic Plan 2012 to 2016. It is by the FDA from 2011, and also the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Food and Drug Administration, and Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research.
So, by the way, FDA, I just want to bring this up because this is new. In fact, it was on the news, and I did check the veracity of this. Speaking of the FDA, let's say you are a cancer patient, or you've got chronic acute pain, and you are taking a pain medication. For example, one specific pain medication in particular would be hydrocodone, which a lot of people take.
Yeah,
I don't know
you
what
saw
you heard
that.
about this. Yes.
Okay.
This is a collateral effect of Obamacare. Folks, listen carefully to this because this is extremely important. What they're doing now is they're requiring any patient that takes that medication, hydrocodone, as one of several, but that one in particular because that's widely prescribed, especially for cancer patients, chronic people in chronic pain, legitimate people that have really severe issues. Well, they've reclassified it. So now you must see your doctor every 3 months in person in order to get or in order to maintain your prescription. So in other words, you were able to get, you know what, I'm not even sure. It was like a 9-month supply, I believe it was, or 6 months, or a year maybe. It was a number of refills, I believe, but it translates out to a number of months, at least in my mind. Well, they've shortened that up, so you've got to actually physically go into the doctor's office. You've got to make an appointment. You've got to see your doctor. You've got to be reevaluated, and then and only then will the physician prescribe you the pain medication. Now think about the cancer patient. Think about the person with rheumatoid or arthritis or some.
Well, you remember what
debilitating
Obama
condition.
said? They're going to cut back the availability of pain medication for people.
I hope to hell, and I mean this, and you know what? This might sound not too Christian-like, but the authors of that bill, because I've seen many people in my family.
Oh, I don't think it's a bill. I think it's going to be a regulation.
I'm sorry, the regulation. And I misspoke there. But, to see them withering in pain themselves, and damning themselves for making others do this. And that might not sound too
they're going to be held to that same standards?
I guess not. But it breaks my heart to see. I mean, seriously, these older people, the people that are...
People are going to want to see death panels if they're not going to have access to pain medicine if they have cancer and are not being able to be treated properly.
And of course, they're saying it's because of the abuse out there. Well, look, we run the largest opium campaign in the world. I mean, we are the largest the United States government, and like it or not, I'm telling you right now, flat out, we are the largest opium sellers in the world. Period. So my frustration level is off the charts because, again, I watched my father pass away from cancer. I've watched enough people pass away in pain, withering in pain, and it's no fun.
No, it isn't.
And I just think it's horrible. Joe, before the break, I don't mean to dominate this because I know we have Stan coming on here in a second. Before the break, I just want to say this. On stevequayle.com, I received this alert very quickly. I would urge everyone to go to stevequayle.com and take a look at this alert. It's trading with AC-130 gunships on churches. Okay? This is sent, and I'm not going to violate any confidences here, but very quickly. The sender of this report, he says this: I experienced a few things in my short career as an AC-130U aerial gunner. And what I have to share with you deals with the training we do on a normal nightly routine. During our normal 4 to 5 hour training missions here in the States, we accomplish a live fire mission over one of the Eglin Air Force Base ranges, and then we complete a dry fire mission over a town in Alabama and in Florida. A dry fire mission is a simulated live fire mission without using any rounds from the aircraft, of course. Dry fire, hence the name. I believe you might know the capabilities of the AC-130U spooky gunship, so I won't cover them, but during a dry fire mission, the aerial gunners, mainly practice calling out combat evasive maneuvers to move the plane away from any simulated threats. But here's the key. The dry fire missions are brief after... let me just see here. Okay. Each dry fire mission has a combat scenario that is followed in order to complete the required mission or the required training for a given flight. So before you go up there, you're giving a mission scenario. Every scenario has GPS coordinates of the simulated enemy headquarters and positions. So far, 80% of the dry fire that this man has been on, the simulated enemy headquarters positions would be a church as the primary target, folks. There is a desensitizing war on Christianity taking place. And, oh, by the way, yeah, they'll use the AC-130 gunships to send a bomb into the church and then use rounds and practice shooting the people as they fly out of the windows or run out of the windows. Isn't that pleasant? That's SteveQuayle.com.
Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Tuesday, October 29th, 2013. Don't miss tomorrow's show. We'll be live with Paul McGuire for the whole 3 hours. But up next, we'll be live with Stan Deyo as he joins us. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Tuesday, October 29th edition. As Tuesdays come, so comes Mr. Stan Deyo. And I want to say hello to Mr. Deyo. I was not here last week, and neither was he.
And where were you?
My wife was having surgery. She was in the hospital for a few days, and I used that time to take a vacation in the hospital with her.
Was she okay?
No, she's doing fantastic, and
all
is
it
well.
was fantastic, Stan. They were at the hospital today, for crying out loud, or the doctors today. It's just one thing after another. But the question is, how are you doing?
Oh, fine. I'm Holly and I are both getting over this whooping cough, and this is about week 4. So we,
wow.
We're coming back and done all the antibiotics and that stuff now then, and I wandered off to the hospital today and got 3 more nerves blocked in my back so that it don't hurt so much, and they tell me that the shots will hurt for a week, but after that I'll feel a lot better.
I have to ask you, this is a personal question for me. Do you have a lot of pain at the point of injection? When you say the shots will hurt for a week, is that what's referenced? Because I've gotten those shots before, and the injections, and at the point of injection, it really, you can feel. In fact, that hurts almost worse than.
My dad also has the pain tolerance of an infant, so.
No. But are you getting that point of injection pain, or is it just soreness?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's kind of today's thing. But let's see, probably 2 weeks more of these things. I will have run the full gamut of the injections, and they tell me I'll feel a lot better.
Well, you will definitely be in our prayers, and you and Holly will be in our prayers for your whooping cough. I hope that you guys get over that as fast as possible.
Wait a second. Whooping cough, Stan? I mean, seriously, isn't that really normally for children or young
people? It was passing around here in the school, and we thought we had the flu, but it wasn't, and the doctor said it was a variety of whooping cough.
Wow.
Virus.
Oh, man.
So Holly coughed more than I did. Boy, she was, there were times where it was just rapid-fire coughing for a while.
Well,
anyway, that's
folks,
pretty much passing now.
Yeah,
and,
please pray for Stan and Holly. Keep them in your prayers for their health, please, folks. Okay, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Stan, I know we did not really get a chance to touch base and go over or even get into what we were going to talk about today, but I guess I have an opening question, unless you have something you want to start with.
Go ahead, yeah.
About this story we didn't cover the first hour, the UN planning to defend Earth from asteroids. Did you see that story?
Yeah, I did, and I got the email you sent me about that. It's about 20 years too late, I think. But anyway, to start setting up the asteroid detecting infrared telescope they're talking about, that Sentinel telescope. They're not even going to have that in orbit until 2017. And what's really spooky is that, I don't know how many they might have found, 4,000 or 5,000 Earth-threatening asteroids, but there are 100 times more asteroids than they've actually found, they estimate, by mass. And, that Russian meteorite that exploded and fortunately missed the main city, they didn't even know about it until it was just on top of us, because they can't see reflected light from dark asteroids or dark meteors, so they have to use infrared telescopes to do it. And they say they want to send up missiles and impact the asteroids and stuff like that and throw them off course and blow them up. Or they've got all kinds of different proposals to try to kick it out of its current, some asteroid, if they detected it, out of its current Earth-threatening orbit. But I think what we need is some kind of a global, what would it be? Maybe a charged envelope around the Earth in the upper atmosphere with a lot of electrical charge in it that might cause that thing to any asteroids coming in to break up early. It wouldn't stop all the pieces hitting, but it might break up some of the smaller asteroids or meteors so that they're not quite so damaging.
Well, we keep seeing these fireball reports coming in more and more. We know that even tonight there is a close approach of a asteroid. And, we talk about this frequently, how they won't put these up there, these close calls up there until, a few days after or right before. And either they're not wanting to or they don't see them until these times. But obviously, do you think in your mind, do these pose a significant threat to us, like the one we saw in Russia, even maybe smaller than that, more often than we think?
I think over the next, probably over the next 3 months, yes. There's a lot of discussion going on about Ison and what may happen to it as it does its close approach to the sun. Now, it will be at its whip-around point, right close to the sun at the end of November, November 28th through the 30th, somewhere in there. Already, what we are moving into now, I think, is some debris that is from the trail that it left when it went past Mars. We're definitely going to be in that debris trail toward the end of December and into the end of January. There have been a number of private astronomers calculating what might happen if Ison breaks up into a bunch of other pieces as it passes around the backside of the sun from us. In that case, the orbit may change by 2 degrees of Ison, which could be interesting in our case because it may throw more debris that we'll run into. Anyway, as I say, I expect we will see more flashes in the sky from that sort of thing from now till the end of January. Whether we will see bigger troubles, really we have to wait until, first week of December to see what has happened to Ison. With any luck, it might just actually go ahead and break up and fall into the sun and be destroyed. I don't think that's going to happen because it's too far out. It's about 1 million miles out, which means it probably will scoot on around. What also may attend that as it gets closer, let's see here. It's 1 astronomical unit now. It'll be 0.96. Okay. It goes around the sun. Okay, late December. Okay, I'm just looking at my orbital maps here.
November 28th, I think, was the last time I looked, was the date that it was planned to slingshot around the sun.
Yeah, it'll be less than that. It'll be 0.986 Earth distance, January the 1st. So that's on the exit side. Between the 28th of November, we're there in a couple of days, November. From the 28th to probably about the 3rd of January, it'll be very close to the sun, and that's the period that most astronomers are going to be looking at to see what happens. I have seen one report from an observatory. One of the astronomers has calculated he thinks it's going to break up and possibly shift 2 degrees, but he's also in a wait-and-see mode to see what will happen when Iceland gets close enough to the sun to have some dynamic interaction with it. Could be interesting, guys. And of course, there's always the wild cards out there. I mean, if you've ever looked at a dot map of all the asteroids that they do know about, whether the Earth impacting orbits or not, it looks like an absolute firestorm of asteroids and meteors in the belt and around, heading our way. I mean, into our interplanet orbits. It's quite busy when you look at it. I mean, there's just like thousands of dots. And as I say, those are not directed our way. The majority of them aren't, as far as anybody knows. I am concerned that we don't have deep space infrared tracking, that the nations of the world are just now getting together at the UN to figure out that they might need to set up a joint project to detect and destroy any incoming debris like that. It's just late.
Do you think we don't have that tracking, or do you think that the public is not privy to that information?
Well, the public certainly isn't privy to it. Whether it's being done in private circles, I suspect with the technology that I do know about that is being held back from the public, that it, the powers that be, if you wish, do have access to that data. They also have means to leave the planet if they need to and go to a lunar base or deep inside the planet if they want to endure the impacts and the results of it here on Earth. Do it while they're here on Earth. We can only kind of guess at some of these things, but that's what I think is.
I'm just curious if I was one of the elite with the money and the power and everything at my disposal, wouldn't it be more of a risk to leave the Earth in whatever form, whatever type of moon bus, if you will, or space bus?
No, look, I think our electrogravitic craft, they were being developed when I was in the program down for Dr. Teller. They had already mastered anti-gravity and tested a number of different designs in the late 60s. And, what they've done since then, I mean, good Lord, they've had 40 years at least, maybe 43, to develop bigger, better buses to take them and supplies to, to the moon, to Mars. I mean, they can get away. It's not like normal rockets. These are very fast anti-gravity craft.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, so they could go up and sit on the moon, on the dark side, on the sun side, whatever, in their bases they've got up there, if they do. I suspect they would have by now. And weather the impacts that hit the Earth and, cause damage down here and wait till the dust settles and at their leisure come back and decide whether they're going to come back home and win.
Wow. Well, wow. I don't know why that strikes me as being, I don't know. I just never really heard it stated that bluntly before. And the fact that, the anti-gravity crafts that we have. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Looking at it from a biblical standpoint, though, I don't see any mentions of them talking about, the elite or the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, leaving the Earth during the time of the judgments of the Revelation. Now, they will be in underground facilities. That's pretty much implied from some of the things that I read in the book of Daniel. So I suspect that what is happening is that our craft, our electrogravitic craft, have been developed to a certain point, and Satan is here, and so are his minions, and he's created robotic gray critters. They're here and been here, a long time. They used us, humans, to develop infrastructure in various underground bases so that they could use our technology to build some more stuff that they needed, because Satan and these guys have been kicked out of heaven, or being kicked out. That means that they will probably inhibit the elite taking our own saucer craft and leaving the planet or doing anything that Satan and his boys didn't approve of. And basically, he's going to make an example of the Illuminati, the elite, the powers that be, so that the people of the earth will follow his appointed Antichrist here as a hero, getting rid of all the bad guys that have been giving us trouble. Now, we've talked about this before on the show, and I'm just referring back to that. That does indicate to me that our troops, our saucer people and the craft that we've made aren't going to go very far. They're going to be here at the behest of Satan himself.
Yeah, and one Bible verse, Stan, that has always just intrigued me is in Obadiah in verse 4. It says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence I will bring thee down, saith the Lord. And I've always wondered exactly, what that meant. Who is setting their nest among the stars?
Well, probably Satan, but some of our Earth people might be working with him under the illusion that he's really a great guy, and they could be off world. But I do think that he will gather the men from the four corners of out there, and wherever they are, for the judgment that's going to be played out here.
Yeah, and it's we know that time is short, and these things are coming faster than we really are prepared for. Switching gears here, a listener question. They want to know about these freak storms in Europe. What is going on with these storms in Europe? I saw 119 mile-an-hour winds.
Hurricane force winds over land. Yeah. I've been telling people for several years now then that I do expect these hurricanes over land. I call them landicanes because, of the changes in the Earth's total environment and possibly the axis and the magnetic pole shift and a number of other factors. Plus, the Earth was heating up due to sun activity more than, cow gas or whatever. These things are going to make extreme weather machines, extreme hot and cold, which generate electrical charge differences, huge lightning storms, terrific winds, and in places where they normally wouldn't occur. And I do think that changes are occurring inside the core of the planet to change the magnetic field as well as to change the spin axis of the planet. It may not be totally there at the moment, but I think the wobble will be increasing in the spin axis and possibly, spin upside down at one point in time. There are just a number of kind of vague references to the natural forces of the Earth seeming to be crazy, during the time that happens. And I think we're rapidly approaching that. Look at the sun this last week, the number of flares that have been Earth-directed. It's been busy. It's not over yet.
If you can, let's talk about what the sun is doing, Stan. I'm kind of getting up to speed because I'm late to the party on this in many respects. But what's the sun doing? Like this past week, for example, abnormal to inconsistent with what it has been.
We've had periods before where the sun had several flares in our direction, or coronal mass ejections. The number of them at the moment, and the fact that we've seen huge coronal holes or dark spots in the particular wavelengths they photograph the interior or the subsurface of the sun there. That tells us that the sun is entering right now a very unstable and very unusual, in fact unique as far as our tracking over the last 200 or 300 years, tracking period. The NASA calls this particular solar sunspot cycle, it's the 24th since they've been measuring these things, and that's about every 11 and a half years. So that tells you how long they've been doing it. And this 24 solar cycle is what NASA has termed the grand solar maximum. Now, they've never explained that to my satisfaction about why they picked this particular sunspot cycle to be the grand one. Was it going to be a lot of sunspots? if that was their intent, it hadn't happened yet. In fact, the sunspot count this solar cycle has been low, at points almost non-existent over a few days. No sunspots. So something has told them that this particular cycle is going to be bigger in some way than all the other 23 cycles we've been through. That might be due to something that they've detected with their polar orbiting satellites around the north-south pole of the sun. It might be due to something they've detected using other technology we're not aware of, or things they're just not posting with existing technology. The sun is like all other stars. It will age, and as it ages, it will go through, since it's a main sequence star, it'll probably go through the expansion phase and eventually become a red giant. But between now and the expansion phase, where it becomes a red giant, I think there will be a number of years, decades, perhaps even up to centuries of time as the diameter of the sun starts to increase, falls back, and oscillating back and forth until its hydrogen fuel goes to a certain level, and under 50% now anyway. And the normal nuclear reactions occurring in the sun change, and at that point, we're talking tens to hundreds of years, perhaps even longer if you take the standard time used by astronomers, but I don't. The sun will expand, and it'll cook the inner planets. I think that'll be after the millennium is over, when the Bible says the earth and the heavens will pass away in a fervent heat, and it's rushing sound, but a new heaven and a new earth will replace the old. So we're coming to a point, which is mentioned in the Bible, within 1,000 years or so of now, where things will happen like that. And that means I'm pretty sure that the sun will do something pretty terrific. It's aging, it's expanding, as all things that have spin and gravity, as they age, they expand in their diameter like a swelling balloon. And eventually, like a balloon, they pop and blow debris out, and we see it in our telescopes and other parts of the universe. Things that happened a long time ago now, because it took the light of these events so long to reach us, like some cases, thousands and millions of years. But that's what I see happening with the sun. It is going through a normal aging process for, a main, an M-class star.
Wow. Something to look forward to, everybody. Also, Stan, what is on your radar this week? That is, we have Fukushima news. We have, this uptick in solar activity that we've been seeing. The storms going on in Europe. What is on your radar at the moment as a point of concern?
Well, the Fukushima issue is not going away. And even though, according to the Japanese, 80% of the stuff that spilled out of the reactors settled into the sea offshore there, off of Japan, we do know that there is a large concentrated amount of radioactive debris, flotsam, that is 3 million square miles in area. That's like about 1,800 miles by 1,800 miles. That's big. It's between Hawaii and California, Oregon, Washington coast. It's getting close. And when that stuff hits the shore, even before it does, as it gets closer, it's going to start polluting sea life, and there will be breezes blowing some of it probably in the air. And when it gets on our shores, it'll be a heck of a big cleanup for us, too. So Fukushima, even if it doesn't do any more activity or doesn't sink down into water tables or anything else, we're going to see radioactive debris in the water and in the air for some time to come. In fact, that floating 3 million square mile mat of debris is even closer, I'm sure, than what I saw on the diagram on the internet the other day, because it's an older data set. And that's just the core of it, the highly radioactive stuff. The rest of it already is spreading out across the North Pacific and the edges of it are touching the Aleutian Islands and into southwestern Canada and, of course, the northwest United States. That's already hitting us now, but it's not the heavy radiation count that we're going to see in that floating mat. My thought would be somebody ought to go out there and just melt it down, sink it, some tactical nuke over the top of it, and just blow it down into the sea, so it doesn't go any further. But that's just me. That's on my mind, and also knowing that various things are threatening not only the population of the United States but the world, threatening to destroy our power grids, like coronal mass ejections, nuclear war, EMP pulses over the United States or over Europe, whatever. These kind of things are threatening our life entirely. If you cut power out, you cut out the lifeblood of most, economy, most industry, business, life, everything. We all depend now so heavily on electricity that many of us, the majority of the population, like 95% of the population of the world, would have to go back to using more primitive power sources like horsepower, horses, and candles, and whale oil or whatever they can get their hands on for oil to burn, kerosene. The United States and Europe and a lot of developed Russia and United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all these kind of more technologically developed countries are so dependent on electrical things, electricity always being there when they turn on the light or plug in the plug, that it'll be a massive shock to their minds and their whole body, etc., to be without electricity. They won't have the kerosene. Some people will have wood. Some people will have a little kerosene, maybe a little LPG gas or propane or something to burn for a while. But then they'll be out, and it's back to the Dark Ages. And even if people here have prepared, bought freeze-dried food and water and things like that to be prepared for this kind of stuff, generators, the fuel that they're using, the standard generators and stuff, and even the solar power, will fall off, will diminish. And the solar cells, as I discussed on the program probably 3 or 4 weeks back now, the solar cells are failing. They are not generating the power that they were designed to do and that they delivered when they were first bought by people and installed. Part of the reason is it's faulty manufacture and design out of China. Only 1 in 6 of the solar panels sent to the United States to be, imported, passed the U.S. customs inspections as far as functionality. Did they work? 1 in 6. 5 out of 6 didn't work when they got here. Now, this was because of poor laminates on the surface of the cells, and then after being installed, many of these things are now down 20 to 25% of what they were putting out in power, because that laminate is peeling and cracking and letting water get into the cells. And this is also due to the fact that the solar cells were never designed for the extremes of hot and cold that we see in Alaska and down in the hot zone in Mexico and Central America and in the southern states. You get these extremes of heat and cold, and water gets in there. Once you get one crack in there, the moisture spreads, and it starts to eventually just kill the solar cell in that panel, the solar cells. The other issue is that when you mount all these, there's abrasion by dust and sand, et cetera, and when the sun becomes hotter, it is quickly going to accelerate the demise of the glass, which has been protected by that film, and we will also see there's another threat to it. The solder joints in the cells inside solar panels, many of those solder joints are failing with the temperature changes. It pops them, and they're not making good connection. There's just so many little things that kill solar power, and there's only a finite amount of petroleum-based fuels. Then you got wind power, and wind power is very inefficient. and the bigger wind power things got a lot of electronics in them, and an EMP would probably fry most of those. The 500-watt home windmill turbines, they're loud, and the bearings fail in those things over a short time, relatively short. Spare parts won't be available for those. So about 3 weeks ago, I think it was the last time I was on the show, I did mention that, and folks listening, get this clear, I have not got a working prototype yet, nor drawings to send out to you, but I did mention the way that we need to go research-wise immediately, and people can do this at home who have the skills, is to develop a wind turbine that doesn't work on magnetic motors, like more normal electromagnetic generators that we use. It has to work on an electrostatic or high voltage generation principle. And that is to be developed. And I've gotten more emails on that statement or on that issue than any other subject we've ever talked about, Doug. So I do want to address that. If you're listening, I don't have plans to sell you. I cannot give you a device plan and sell you bits and pieces to make it yet. We're trying to develop that on our own. And the reason I told you so much about it in that program 3 weeks ago was so that I could encourage others who have more time and resources and knowledge in this area to develop their own versions using the principles that I put forward. Now, I do realize that, Doug, on your website, they couldn't find links and, the images and stuff that I sent to you for the show that day. I don't even know where to find them myself. But those links were to types of electrostatic devices that could be used as a starting point. And there was one screen snap I made to show people the efficiency of high voltage versus the standard things we have now, which are low voltage generators. High voltage generators can withstand EMP pulses. They're very simple, and you don't need diodes or transistors or electric circuits other than high voltage wire and some coils. These things are bulletproof as far as EMP. Now, having said that, I am squeezing time in between everything else that's going on here to make 3D drawings and designs, models for people to see what my thinking on the best way to do the high voltage electrostatic turbine is. And it may surprise people that it doesn't look like a fan per se. When I'm finished with it, I will put that up, make it available for people to see. But that's weeks, if not months away. Okay?
Yeah, Stan and listeners, I want to apologize because we did have some issues that took place. The images that you referenced, and this goes back to our October 15th show. If you simply click on our main menu, Show Prep, and I realize this is a relatively cumbersome process. Forgive me for having it done this way, but I had to do it this way at that time. But simply click on Show Prep, and then from there, you'll see at the bottom of that page it says Click Here. You click there, it takes you to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report sister site, and very simply click on the word Blog. There you will find the images from last week's show. So real simple, HomelandSecurityUS.com. You click on Show Prep. Then at the bottom of that page, it's Click Here. And I'm sorry for that extra step there. And then click on the Blog, B-L-O-G, Blog tab. And there you will find 2 images and then a table. And this goes back to the October 15th show. For whatever reason, the other image, I think there was one other image, perhaps 2, I could not get to stick up there. And I don't know what the problem was. But we had to put the images here just to store them for a moment, or to store them at that point. But that's where they are. That's where they are, Stan. So I apologize for that.
Do I need to send you links or images again, or can you put them up when you get a time, or what?
Yeah, what I can do is I'll reconfigure a couple of things to to make it work. In fact, we'll just host it on the main website, so you don't have to go through all of that. So at the end of tonight's show, they'll be under your guest page. These images will be on your guest page, all of them that you'd sent on the 15th, so people can see them. If that's okay with you, I mean, that way we'll host them on our site. Unless you want me to link back to the images you've got there, it's up to you.
No, that's fine. Put them up there.
Okay.
It's just that I wanted your listeners to be able to access. I mean, that was in a lot of the emails I got, though. Where do I go to look at what was on the show? And I thought, well, I'll just get that link and show you. And, of course, like the rest of them, I couldn't find it, but I understand why now.
Yeah, and it's I apologize. Again, it was at that moment in time. That's where they needed to go because of some issues. But nonetheless, they're there. Again, show prep. Click here and then blog on the tab. So there you go, 3 steps. But the images are quite interesting. You've got the cutaway image, and then of course that fan, like the oscillating image, and then of course if you click on the chart, there's a chart there that accompanies the standard wind generator.
All right. Yes, I'm getting messages from CUBN. He says he'll put them up too. Did you see that come through the Skype thing there?
I did. Which is thank you, Troy. Christians United Broadcasting Network is going to make them available. And folks, you can go to the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com, which is the arm of the Christian, or which is hosted by Christians United Broadcasting Network, to see the images in real time. There you have it. So
okay.
All right.
Okay. That's good. Yes, well, technology is good and it works, and mind you, for the last couple of weeks anyway, I couldn't do much. Holly and I were just absolutely dragging through every day to try to do anything.
I can't
got
imagine.
way behind.
Yeah, no, and we understand that. I just can't imagine. It's amazing. Frankly, Stan, I didn't expect you tonight because of the severity of your illness is compounded by your your back issues. But thank you so much for being part of it tonight. You said something here earlier, and this is my question, because the coronal mass ejections or whatever would cause a grid failure or power failure long term, what would be the best? I mean, we talk about this. Joe and I go back and forth about this, and I know Dare to Prepare. Folks, by the way, if you haven't purchased Dare to Prepare the 5th edition, you've got to do it. Go to standdeo.com. Go to in fact, if you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, there's a direct link there to Standeo and Dare to Prepare, the book website. But let me ask this. What's, in order of safety, importance, relevance, you've got heat needs, you've got power needs, of course. What do you recommend people to do, just in a normal setting, let's say to prepare for power outages? Generators, you said? No, not really, maybe?
Well, look, just understand that they will run out of fuel eventually.
Yep.
The majority of us aren't in a position where we can store 2 years' worth of generator fuel. I mean, just even diesel, which is a very safe fuel, safer than gasoline. Diesel generators, for a normal household to run, you might put, let's say, 300 gallons away in cans around the house somewhere, or outside in 55-gallon drums. And they would be pretty safe. You'd probably want to hide them from prying eyes so that nobody shot holes in them or stole it. But diesel generator, 5-kilowatt generator, will probably run for 8 hours a day for a month, some more, some less. If you stretch it out and don't use the heavy load things like air conditioners and freezers, things that chew up the power, if you don't use that and just run 4 hours a day, then you might get 2 months, on, say, about 200 or 300 gallons. So to do a year, then you can see you'd be talking about thousands of gallons. And that's hard to store with EPA rules and stuff as they are at the moment. So if you can't afford generators, can't afford fuel, don't have the place to store it, you got to start out small. And I would suggest in the interim for emergency power to get some solar panels, very simple ones, and none of these that have on-board monitoring circuits and stuff like that to send your computer information, but just simple, straightforward solar panels that have about 250 watts to 300 watts per panel. Get these panels and feed them directly into a battery bank, and you might have to have somebody that knows a bit about electricity show you how to do that, because you can hook the output of the solar panels directly into either a transformer or into a series of 6 or 12 volt batteries, adding up to the voltage range of whatever the solar panel puts out. Some of them put out 40 volts, some of them put out 12, 13, whatever. But you could charge your batteries and use DC devices off these batteries. And again, I do specify that the Edison Electric Company up in Edison Battery up in Denver, Colorado, do have these. They're Chinese made, but they are reasonably good batteries. The Edison iron battery, and if people got some of those, they will store up electricity better than all the other lead acid batteries. And that would allow you to get like 90% of the energy back out of that battery, whereas you can only get about 40% out of a lead acid battery. So, those batteries can be charged by your own homemade wind generators we're talking about, by solar panels hooked up to provide the right voltage to that thing, a range of voltages. And you don't even need a charge controller because these iron Edison batteries, the nickel iron, they're almost bulletproof. They'll take a lot of torture in charging them up with voltages that are out of normal ranges. So I would suggest that certainly 1 or 2 or 3 of those, however many you can afford to get or need to get, would be good so that you can pump energy into them when you've got something to do it with.
Do you have I'm sorry, Stan. Do you have a favorite supplier that? I know sometimes people don't want to really promote or talk about suppliers, but
look, the only one I know of in the country that's getting the Chinese batteries in, because they're not being, these iron nickel batteries aren't being made here in the States yet. And this young fellow, Brandon Williams, and his wife, Maggie, they're about 120 miles north of me here. I've never met them personally, but we've talked on the phone a lot and about long-term plans. And they do plan to try to set up a manufacturing process for these batteries here in the United States. But until they do, they're getting them in from China. And they call their company ironedison.com. And, that's their email or their website. And go there and talk to Brandon or email him, he and his wife. Tell him what you can afford, what you want, what you need. And, look, he'll talk with you and help you through it, whatever you need. Now, the only thing is they have limited amounts of these batteries coming in. Sometimes you have to wait 60 to 90 days for a new shipment to come in because they come by sea. But anyway, that's the only country doing that, or only company doing that in the United States as far as we know at this point. And so I send people there. It's not a matter of preferred. It's the only place in town, and I find them easy to get along with, and they certainly help me with my investigations of what kind of power we need for here.
Would they also have the not only the batteries but the solar panels as well? I
don't know that Brandon started doing that yet. He might be able to give you some advice about what kind you need for where you are, which ones have the best reputation for reliability, And remember, this is all in the short term. But let's face it, if you've got solar panels, just a few, 5 or 6 plus some batteries or a battery, and things that run off DC, then you're ahead of the game, because until those panels fail, you'll have power. And the panel failures I'm talking about aren't just stopping as a general rule. What happens is they're less efficient, but you're still getting power out of them. The other thing is that we are working on another way to get power out of the atmosphere as well, with a wire and some high voltage, which has nothing to do with the static electricity generators I was talking about. But both of these just require more time and resources than I have at the moment. Even though I have a group up in the Springs, about 50 miles from here, we only get together once every 5 or 6 weeks, if that. And, we're all just average blokes with not a lot of money or anything, and have our own businesses. So we get together, brainstorm, go try an idea, and then, we've had them fail as far as this new kind of thing I'm talking about. But if you don't want to get electricity, use heat energy from the sun. Make yourself a cardboard and aluminum foil cooker oven, out of a box. There's lots of designs for that on the internet. We bought one of the ready-mades, which has got a little glass cover on it. You can cook bread and pie and stews and stuff in it. It takes a few hours, but you just put it out in the sun, point it toward the sun, and, no electricity required, just the heat of the sun in this solar oven. And it'd be something you'd want to be looking into right now. I wouldn't wait too much longer, because I don't know how much longer the U.S. dollar is going to be available, or how much longer the banks are going to be letting you have your money. I mean, there's just a lot of things in the wind at the moment that could happen within weeks or before the end of the year even. And I'm not saying that I positively will, but I do feel uneasy about things we're seeing. Solar energy can be used to heat your water, if you have water. With new things that have been passed, legislation, the EPA can now, if you own a well, a deep water well, they can come and tell you to get off your property, and they want it. They can dispossess you by law. If your house sits on top of a major water aquifer, they can remove you from your property legally. I mean, they make the laws. They can make any laws they want. If you have a big rainfall and it puddles up on your property, and they know about it, they can tell you, okay, you're off the land, or you're going to run the land how we tell you from now on.
Does eminent domain under
something like that, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is just crazy. Crazy. Oh, and part of every mortgage contract in the United States says there's an EPA clause in it buried down the middle of it. We've got it here on ours, which, we don't have anymore. We paid it off because of this. But the EPA clause says if you have more than the allowed amount of diesel, gasoline, fertilizer, kerosene, gas on your property, we can call your mortgage due and payable within 30 days, or you have to get off your property. Now, they never say what is the allowable amount of any of that. It's just an open-ended statement. Like you were saying, Joe, eminent domain, yeah, what's yours is theirs. This is just crazy. Every mortgage contract.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. And the things that they continue, we saw in, I think it was Texas, the Department of Homeland Security using eminent domain to take property from a rancher who owned a sizable portion of land down there to set up some, radar system for tracking the border. And we learned yesterday that they spend twice as much on global warming, over $22 billion, double what they spend on border security. It's just sad and ridiculous.
Look, the long-term plan by the planners is this. They want South America, Central America, Mexico, and the United States and Canada to become an interbred race of humans that are tan-colored. They want to get rid of the white, the black, the brown, and go to tan. And, that's the long-term plan. Is it all becomes one connected landmass, and therefore they will share common factors. But that may change with the Club of Rome documents and the analyses they're doing of some 100 different parameters that they use to judge which countries go together. Water is important, folks. Water. More than food, water is important. We got some water tanks that they're plastic, but they're big, and it's what they used in Gulf War I and II. The military used them, and there's a company up in Denver. It's Denver, and it's like spun tanks, where they spin it to form it into a mold, and each tank holds 2,500 gallons of water. and they might cost, by the time you get them delivered, around $1,300 or $1,400. But these tanks will keep your water, fresh and protected for a long time. And if they ever get any fungus or mold, you just pour in some dry chlorine that's been dissolved in water, standard formulas that are in Holly's book and on the internet. And that water is important. Now, that is another thing you want to hide from prying eyes and from stray bullets. But
how do you hide a 25? And I'm not trying to be stupid here, but
you brick it in or put it in a garage. I mean, these things will fit inside of a standard garage height-wise, and they're 8 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I was, for some reason, 2,500 gallons. I was thinking of quite a monstrous structure, but 8 by 8 by 8 is doable, and of course it would be gravity fed, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, believe me, the pressure coming out the bottom of that 2-inch thing we've got on the bottom of it. If you open the valve, stand back, because even though it's down at the bottom of only 8 feet with all that head on it, it puts out a 2-inch stream of water that moves you a bit.
Okay.
So, I mean, gravity-fed, bucket down inside of it. There are any number of ways once you got the water there. But as I say, you can hide it. You can get one of these portable, sheds or metal frame buildings. A little I forget what they call it, but it's a standard name for metal barns. Buy a metal barn and throw them in there real quick and fill them up. 2,500 gallons is not a lot, even if you ration your water to maybe 50 gallons a day for a household of 2 or 3, and that's rationing it, because we're talking about water, toilet flushing, all kinds of stuff. That would only last you about 100 days without refill. So you want to investigate things like, can I refill my water tank by catching rain off of my roof and throwing it in there, and then sterilizing it with chlorine? But once you got a 2,500-gallon tank, you get a good rain. It's good for 100 days. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, very much.
And
very important.
And there are ways that you can make a very simple little battery-powered thing, like that would power like a fish tank water pump, and dribble water over artificial grass that's been mounted on something at a slant, like a kid's sled, or not sled, slide, backyard slide. And you can line the top of that with 19 millimeter, which is about 3/4 inch long, fronds in the grass, the artificial grass. And you can dribble salt water if you want to, or brack water, bad water, down the middle of that in the sunlight. And the sun heats up the mat under the grass, and the grass leaves suck up the water by capillary action, and it evaporates water very rapidly, which you condense on a very thin layer of plastic, a little tent you string down the top of that grass over the slide, so that the water that connects on that plastic drips off the sides of it down into 2 half pipes you cut and glue on the side of the slide, and your fresh water comes down there to the bottom of the slide into your fresh water buckets. And the brack water that doesn't get evaporated from it's flowing down through the grass mat will collect in a tank down at the bottom, which you can recirculate with that little, tiny, fish tank pump, or just throw it away somewhere as brack water, concentrated brack water. But I've seen this work in Australia, and they developed it after the Aborigines taught them how to do it with bushes, and then this guy, an engineer at West Australia University, developed it further, and had a model working that was just pouring water out. I mean, it wasn't like drip, but it was pouring water out of one of these things, so much so that the whole community of Shark Bay, Western Australia, said, look, can you take an acre or two here and put these things on it for us and supply our town water from the sea, because they're on the coast there. And he was going to do that, but he died. So I got the information from his widow after that, the things I needed to know to make it work here. So that's another thing. Fresh water you can make, even put urine and stuff in it to boil off the fresh water, and then, of course, still sterilize it with some chlorine later, because fungus, does grow in the pipes and in the air and stuff. So all these things, it's good to have dry chlorine without the additives, just pure dry chlorine, pool chlorine, to the hypochlorite to put into this. I guess that's enough. I got on my soapbox.
No, That's very good. And folks, once again, what you just heard is just a little bit, an iota of good information that you can find in Dare to Prepare, Holly Deo's fantastic book. And this is why everyone should have Dare to Prepare in their library. Please, folks, don't wait. Please don't wait. I'm a proponent of having this. In fact, buy it. Christmas is coming. This would make a superb Christmas gift for every member of your family. Get them their own, Dare to Prepare. And that's at standale.com. And while you're at it, get Stan's book, Cosmic Conspiracy, because that goes, two complimentary books. Please, folks, don't wait any longer. Right after the program tonight, sign on to standale.com, go to their store, and order Dare to Prepare as a Christmas gift or as a gift. There's a manual for yourself, your own library, as well as Cosmic Conspiracy. I just wanted to make sure that I got that in there because that's a requirement.
You reminded me of something, Doug. I hate to interrupt here, but Holly was just motioning to me. We just received delivery of her new Prudent Places CD-ROM, 2014 edition, and we've got it in USB drives as well as CD-ROMs.
Oh, perfect!
The little zip drive or things that you flash drives you plug in your USB port. It has just arrived, and I'm setting up the data for our shopping cart and for the website with her, and hopefully tomorrow I will have that activated so that people can get it. But that has been hugely revamped and added to, and Holly's been gathering stuff since the beginning of the year, thinking she would do this sometime, but when we realized that there were some very important things that people needed now, not next year, we decided to push ahead the release date. So anyway, be encouraged. Prudent Places USA 2014 tells all kinds of stuff about where you are, what your threats are, where you can go to a better place if you need to, incomes, ethnic distributions, all that kind of stuff, plus a lot of the new things, which off the top of my head I can't remember, but that's because I'm old and tired. But anyway, next day or so we'll have that up for you guys.
That's fantastic. And we've got it as well, Dare to Prepare, Prudent Places USA, and Cosmic Conspiracy, three of the most vital tools you can have in your Christian and preparatory toolbox.
A few questions, Stan, if we can, from that listener sent in before we let you go.
All right.
One here is from Carol, and she says, in the past programs you talked about a West Coast earthquake, not in a good place, possibly a 9.0 off Washington coast. They are curious about, is the result of the tsunami, would it affect the Puget Sound? Puget Sound, yes.
Yes.
Seattle, Tacoma, for instance, also 10 to 20 miles inland from the Sound.
Don't know if it would go that far in all directions. Based on the historical tsunamis that have hit the region, in some areas they'll go up a river going east-west a great distance and then retreat very quickly. The Puget Sound will be a little more protected, I think, than the exposed west coast. But there will be sloshes and splashes occurring in there. How far up, at what altitude, I don't know. You're asking me questions that I basically need a supercomputer to answer, to model that area. And there may be such data available somewhere at a university there in Oregon or Washington State somewhere, because I'm sure we're not the first person to think about this, knowing how bad it's going to be. I would search the internet for tsunami, what would you call them, estimations or tsunami calculations for that area, and floodplains and modeling and that kind of stuff. That'd be my advice there. By the way, Doug and Joe, we'll send you a copy of the new Prudent Places in both formats so you can see what we're talking about. And Holly reminded me, this will be a couple days later. We'll put this up. One of our and your listeners in Canada who wishes to remain anonymous did donate a sum of money to have us give away 10 Dare to Prepare and 10 Bibles, King James Bibles, which she has kindly made available to us and sent them here. So we will be putting that up in a drawing on our website. As I say, sometime in the week maybe. I'm trying to catch up here, but so that'll be 10 Bibles and 10 Dare to Prepare together that we will give out to people on her behalf.
What a great gift! That's fantastic. Okay, and folks, watch Stan Deyo's website, standeyo.com, standeyo.com, DEYO. It's linked off of HomelandSecurityUS.com, by the way. Stan wrote a couple of quick questions here that were sent in. One from Janet T. Janet T. from this is from Arkansas, and there's this is a pretty interesting question. Currently, you talked about Fukushima. Would you be concerned with eating salmon from Alaska today, at this time?
Well, look, I don't want to hurt the industry there because I really don't know what the radiation count is. My thought would be the safest thing to do when eating any seafood, whether it be shrimp from, Gulf of Mexico or salmon from Alaska or fish from the West Coast, you don't know exactly where these are coming from all the time or the trip. Number one, get one of these digital taggers or the thing in your hand, flip it first to carry it around or hang it in your belt or whatever. Go to the store or to the restaurant where you run the radiation detector over it. If it's radioactive. As far as the shrimp and stuff in the Gulf of Mexico and the fish there, I'm going to long term be cautious of that because of the surfactants and stuff that are down on the sea floor. And we've got friends that are with the government and the cleanup down there, and they tell us off the record, don't eat anything. It's just too risky.
Wow. Okay.
And I know this is not good for the fish industries, but this is the world we live in.
Yes, and I understand the impact that we can have on death by health issues. Folks, we need to we need to address this head on. In my view, the final question I have, Stan, is
sure.
This from Tina, who lives in New York State, upstate New York. And this is kind of an interesting question because this goes back to the power issue. The not a coronal mass ejection or not an EMP type of event, but for an extended power outage, for example, like a cyber attack. She writes this: I have a whole house generator that is fueled by natural gas. It is hooked up to my gas meter outside. For intermediate and long-term use, would the gas continue to flow to be used as fuel for this whole house generator, or should I look to alternative power supplies for my whole house generator? And that was from Tina.
Well, Tina, that's a very good question. Depending upon the supplier of your gas, your natural gas. I mean, we're hooked up to natural gas here too, but I also have a 500-gallon tank that holds 400 gallons of propane out the side that we fill our little propane portable 20-pound or 40-pound bottles with.
Right.
That's our backup plus diesel, whatever. So even though we don't have a whole house generator running on natural gas, no generators in fact, it depends on your supplier. If he has a backup generators to power what he needs to ship the gas to you, then your gas will probably be there. And I would say that they would probably do that to those that are thinking and can afford it. These companies would have backup generator systems and fuel running off of the very natural gas that they're pumping to you. So check with them and ask them. That would be my first step. But in the long term, the safety, I mean, if you're a gambler, the safety is have at least one small generator there that you could limp along with your key devices, loads in your house, to run off of diesel, gasoline, or sun. Gasoline, I just, Holly put this in her book. We talked about this, but gasoline generators, even a 5 kilowatt thing, will break down quicker than diesel ones. The gasoline ones get hotter, wear parts quicker, and the diesel ones don't. They burn at lower temperatures. Diesel doesn't flash burn. It takes a wick to make it burn. Gasoline vapor will explode, of course, and gasoline stored over a year gets somewhat gummy and loses a lot of its oomph in over 2 years, unless you use a product called PRI out of Texas. I think it's Houston they are, PRI. Unless you use that to restore your gasoline stored on your property will eventually just peter out, even if you stored thousands of gallons, which I wouldn't suggest because it's just too explosive. But diesel, on the other hand, you can find diesel, pump it out of dead cars or places where people aren't using it anymore, whatever, and bring it back to your home, put it in the containers you've got for it, and put some of this PRI for diesel in it. And you can have stuff that's 20 years old and got water and mud in the bottom of it, and just pour off the top diesel into a jar, filtered a bit, and then put this PRI into it, and it's brand new in 24 hours. It'll love you. So I would suggest getting a diesel 5 kilowatt generator for the time that the natural gas is not flowing into your home, if it ever fails. And also call the gas company and ask them if they do have backup power in place already.
That's why, Stan, you get paid the big bucks, right, for answering these questions.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah. But very good information, and more information like this obviously can be found in Dare to Prepare. Again, I'm really pushing this, especially considering the time factor. Nat Geo ran that special. Stan, I don't want to keep you because I know you're probably not feeling all that well in terms of your stamina. But Nat Geo ran that expose. Did you happen to see that about the power going out? It was a 2-hour program.
Yeah, I watched part of it. And since I already knew most of it, and I knew what they were doing to try to shock people who weren't thinking into making preparations for various kind of things. The blackout or something like that it's called. Something like that.
Yeah, I don't even know the title. Somebody had sent me a YouTube video that had the non-commercial version of it, but nonetheless, I mean, what'd you think of that? For somebody,
it's good value for people that haven't really thought about what they would do in a power outage and what might happen in the community and what things they might miss. I think it's good value. As I say, for me and for Holly, it would be, oh yeah, that was in the book on page 323. But it is an important education tool to try to wake up more people because we need people to keep the community going.
Right, exactly. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I watched it and I thought, wow, anything that could awaken the masses or at least shock people into, if that does serve that purpose of shocking them into a sense of reality of what could happen. But once again, the shock part of this can be, you can be so far ahead of the game by having Dare to Prepare in your hands tomorrow, the next day. I mean, just order it now. I'm really pushing this because I've got a really bad feeling about in the short term. I don't know what it is. I don't know, but I got a bad feeling. I really do. So,
hey, Doug, you and I got to enter this lottery and win the millions so that we can afford our Obamacare.
Yeah.
You think I jest?
I told my wife, I said, look, just take me out back and like a horse, just put me out of my misery. I don't, this Obamacare, I don't see this thing working, Stan. I really don't. I mean, on any level, I don't see it working.
Oh, I see it working to destroy the country.
Well, yeah. What I meant was
I know. I'm just teasing you.
No, but that's right. I mean, and I think it was designed just for that purpose to really take over and to consolidate power and to destroy the country. And you kind of casually mentioned the devaluation or the takedown of the U.S. dollar, and I thought, wow, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of this lately. A lot of the mainstream economists are coming out and saying, well, it's pretty much inevitable. The dollar.
I know this won't be a permanent fix, but I would suggest if people think this might be going to happen and the banks may close, I mean, the banks think your money is theirs, that it might be wise to put a little bit in a shoebox someplace safe at home, just for emergencies. I wouldn't tell everybody in the family about it or anything, but just do it. So you got an ATM for yourself at home for a while, because I do feel that we're going to hit a point where the rushes on the banks will be like in Greece or in other countries where it's happened, but more pronounced and probably more fatal to the economy. But where there will be runs for money and there won't be any. I mean, I go to my bank and I talked to my bank manager and I said to her the other day, I said, what if I came in here and I wanted to write a check for $5,000 in cash today? Would you have it? No. I mean, you wouldn't give it to me. Well, we just don't have it. We don't keep cash in the bank anymore. And, we've got 25, 30,000 people and businesses that go to that particular bank. And basically what I see is that central bank for that particular bank, I won't mention it, but, they're probably limiting the amount of available cash or currency, for keeping people's money, credit-wise or number-wise in their bank, so that when the banks are forced to close and a new value, an inflated value of the money is posted, that then they can ration your account and say, okay, we're going to let you have so many dollars for all the other dollars you had. And, sorry about the rest of it. There's restrictions now and you can't have all your money back. And then eventually, of course, in that same year or, within a few months, the inflation will be like it was in the Weimar Republic, before World War II, and where you'll need a wheelbarrow full of money to go buy a loaf of bread. So that's not going to be the long-term solution, just an intermediate solution while you figure out what the heck you're going to do next. Maybe some gold and silver coins or something, but even that will have limited value. When people don't want the gold or silver, they want what it would buy: your food, your water, your weapons, your ammo, your medicine. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. It's very difficult to eat gold. I mean, the desperation of people that I see coming, gold, silver, designer watches, artwork, a lot of good that's going to do you. You can't eat that, and you certainly can't drink it. So I would suggest investing in one precious metal. That's lead, and it's become even more precious because they've shut down the last lead mining and manufacturing company in the United States this week because the EPA hit it with such huge restrictions it could no longer afford to operate. And that company is the one that made lead available to ammo manufacturers.
Yeah, that's what my father was saying here at the beginning of the show.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. No. I'm glad you reiterated that point, because people need to understand the importance of what they are doing, how they are controlling the sectors of business and cutting off. He talked about how they're going after guns, via backdoor measures. Well, by going after the people that produce the projectiles that come out of the guns, if you can't have access to those, then what good are the guns? You might as well have stones. It's just insane. So, no, and I thank you for hitting on that point. And Stan, we kept you over as usual, and we're going to let you go. We appreciate your time so much, and God bless you and Holly. We are going to keep you in our prayers, and we hope you get better, and we hope your back feels better.
Thank you, sir. You guys take care. We'll see you next week, God willing.
All right. God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Bless you. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Stan Deyo from standeyo.com. an amazing man. I'll tell you something, an amazing mind, an amazing man, and married to an amazing lady, Holly Dale, the author of Dare to Prepare. And I'm not kidding around, folks. I am not kidding around. The information in that book is invaluable, all in one place. And I've got, Joe, I don't know how many books in the studio here, preparation books that people have sent me to promote. I won't promote any other book.
2. No, I'm kidding. You have plenty.
Yes. I will not promote any other book except Dare to Prepare in terms of preparation, because nothing comes close to that book. Nothing I've seen. I won't even mention the names of the other ones, because just suffice it to say, Dare to Prepare is the ultimate. And remember, Christmas is coming up. Folks, I don't think you can have a better gift than that book to somebody, to your relatives. You know what? Even if they don't open it, even if you've got an Uncle Ralph who just thinks you're absolutely crazy, give them the book anyway. Because I'll tell you something, when they need it, they'll open it and learn things even contemporaneous to whatever event is taking place. But hopefully they'll look at it before that and prepare, because that's what it's all about. We need to prepare. And Cosmic Conspiracy as well. There's so much good information in that book, very eye-opening information.
Yes, there is.
And you know what? I don't mean to sound like I'm. Well, no, I do mean to sound like I'm promoting books. These are required items for your library. And with Stan just saying Prudent Places USA coming out, I can't wait, because the last time the information in the last Prudent Places USA was phenomenal. I learned things about my area. You look at it and you look at where you live, and that also helps you plan too. If you think, well, you know, my area is pretty safe. Well, certainly it could be, but there are many things to consider, and that really is an eye-opener. And you can spend all day just on that DVD or that disc. So there you have it.
Folks, we're up against the break. We're going to come back with your phone calls at 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. Get on hold now. We'll take your calls in the last 30 minutes of the show. We'll be right back after these short messages. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Tuesday, October 29th, 2013. Don't forget, tomorrow, Paul McGuire will be with us all 3 hours. Should be a fantastic show. His book coming out, The Future of the Prophecy of America. And on Thursday, Pastor Langford and Steve Quayle, The Holy Spirit and Time. We'll be right back.
It's hard to imagine, when things are going reasonably well, just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse? Massive crop failure? Chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family, only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eileen Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour, or actually the final half hour of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, as we took a kind of a extra 20 minutes with Stan there, which is always excellent to do, as his knowledge is much welcome here on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We could run over, he could do a 3-hour show with us every Tuesday with as much information as he has. We're going to be going to your phone calls now, and you can call in at 661-244-9839. We're going to go to area code 604 first. I want to thank you for holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. 604.
604. I'm the whiterockreporter.com. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
That's wonderful. It was a lot of doldrum and negative things that you discussed here. Preparedness is obviously very, very important. We know that. Food is important. Foremost, I would say that the water is probably the most important. Without food, without water, we can't live. What do you have to say about that?
I agree. Water is the most important. We can go weeks without food, but days without water.
Well, and if you want to prioritize, 3 minutes without air and you're dead. So, it seems to be bleak, negative, and kind of disturbing, but it's reality at this point, isn't it?
Well, I would say that, of course, but you're not staring death in the eyes, and I think that right now, I think it's important for the United States to get together and whomever you are assembling around and for and with and so on. That's the important part, that there is some cohesiveness in the particular action forward.
You make a good point. We're not going to get through what we're going to go through by ourselves, or at least not do it with any type of proficiency. We need to surround ourselves with like-minded people, and I think you make a good point. You do.
What
yes.
I like to say is obviously that I don't think we need to be so controversial, but I think it's important. You have a very good program. I've been listening here now for about 15 minutes, and yes, there are many things. You need ammo, you need lead, you need this and that, and so on. And I think, yes, this is a wake-up call for many people to come on board and realize what's really possibly is of essence. We talk about the big quake. I live on the Pacific Northwest. I live in Vancouver area in British Columbia, and I'm a Canadian by choice, born in Sweden, for instance, and only been here since 1988. And I know the training I got once upon a time in armed forces in 2 different armies and so on. So, ABC warfare is a fact today, right?
Absolutely. What would you recommend? I mean, you listen to the portion of tonight's program. What else can we? There's really no other way to address what we're talking about here than to hit this subject matter head on like this with a dose of reality. People need to wake up. But I guess I'm trying to find where you're coming from in your description of our show. Are you saying that, what are you ultimately saying here with respect to the evaluation of what you heard?
Ultimately, what I'm trying to bring forward here and contribute with is obviously you need everything in sensible and everything to be in balance, and I think that we don't need to paint the devil on the wall, and I don't believe that we need to this is not a question of religious things. This is a common sense. Unless common sense, like some people claim common sense as retired, I hope it hasn't. I think that we just need the common sense, and that is to take care of each other. And I don't think that this attitude of digging whatever shelter you need and getting the food and all that, I think it needs to be in a smaller collective. I don't think that alone you will not have. You need to be in groups, squads, whatever. But I think it's important that we somehow coordinate in communities in such a way so that we are working effectively to the survival goals that are fought.
Yeah, and I agree, caller, that common sense does need to be used. We cannot do this alone. We need each other, or else we will fail. One thing I want to go back to what you said, and I don't know if I heard you clearly. You said we don't need to paint the devil on the wall. Did I hear that right?
No, I don't think. Yeah, that's right. I don't think. In a way, many people will say, "Oh, this is this is radical and this is it," and people, they get so shocked that they basically act like they were shell shocked, and they become totally numb for the fact that this is, like you said, reality. And I think it's important that we live in such a comfortable world so far in North America, and as well as in Canada. And I think that we are becoming, and my observation is obviously the complacency, the absolute, almost illiterate review on what do we have around ourselves. We have water, we have food, we have everything else. And if you go to the environmental side, it's important for us to take care of the environment. There's no question about that. So with my little contribution and input here, I'm just a small little fraction of a small little pixel in the whole picture, right? And the question is now, how are you organized to do this from your, I have no clue how many listeners you have, what your audience is, and who could come up and openly, I declare my claim here. If you go to whiterockreporter.com, simple as that, and you look underneath category and interviews, and there is a lot of stuff to be done here, friends, on a regular basis, and that's what I'm trying to emphasize.
Yeah, no, understandable. And the things that we are facing, people in this country are very shallow, ignorant, illiterate, willfully ignorant.
I don't agree. I'm a true. Listen, I served in the armed forces over 27 months in the United States Army, and let me tell you one thing: those were the days, and that's pretty much history for me. But I just can't forget what I was imprinted in. You are most likely you may not even be born then, but what I'm saying to you is that we need to be proudly standing up for what we believe in, and I think that complacency is more common in Canada than in the United States. There are things we are discussing now regarding coal transportation from Montana and up from the big rivers, and you have it, Powder River and so on, to go across railroad lines that goes on almost Canadian property or landmass, and that there is no control, and there is a big ovation here, and people are concerned about the dust, about the poison, about the negative consequences of making part of Vancouver in British Columbia to the largest in North America coal port, debarkation, embarkation, you name it. In other words, transportation hub for export of this thermal, U.S. thermal coal going all the way over to China. Now, you take about the consequences of that. We know that we had an awful lot of smog and bad air quality from both from both, gases from carbon dioxide from automobiles in China, as well as they are burning this coal that we are exporting like crazy and making money on. I think that Canada is not making much money. It creates employment for 50 people, maybe that's about it. So there is a commerce going on here which is rather unsound from the point of user China. Do they really need this? Is this what they should have? And I guess they need it because they need to get warm and they need to use it for fuel, period, to get warm and get heat and energy and all that. So it's a big, complex thing here going on. I don't know if you're on the Pacific Northwest, but I'm pretty familiar with everything along the coastline here from San Diego all the way up to Vancouver. And I think that when you drive the I-5 and follow and meet and stop and talk to people, which I do quite frequently, and I do interview some of them, there is a big difference between states, Oregon, California, Washington State, for instance.
Yes, there is. I want to.
There is what I like to say is there is a clear, warm heart with people when you start talking to people.
That's
plugging a bunch of negative things. There are things I think people will understand that the interest here must be to get together, sort out the beans, bone the fish, I used to say, and make sure that we are doing the right thing at the right time. And it's time for people to understand that comfort does not come cheap. It's not coming free, and there is no free lunch. But I think it's sad that this nation that I saw in 1956, starting at New York, has deteriorated the way it has, unfortunately. Has deteriorated in the sense that politicians and all the talking, the gib and gab and all that stuff is getting so much attention so that people are forgetting about what you are just telling us about here and in your program, and that is the reality. We got to take the command, if I can use that word. We need to embrace this. I believe in talk radio, for instance. I think it's important. We do as well, obviously. Pardon me?
We do as well, obviously. We believe that we can change. I mean, we're doing this not for a hobby, but to help people understand the problem and help people to facilitate change, not just changing practically, but changing the hearts and minds and the awareness of people. So, I mean, I think we're in agreement there.
We think pretty much. We may think different, but we think with the same goal in mind here. And I think that, what is your response rate here now? How many people are calling in, and how many people are sending you email back? And is there really a sincere interest rate?
Well, since we've been on the air, I mean, we have, any given broadcast has got tens of thousands of listeners, and these aren't people who, get in their car and the program happens to be on. These are dedicated listeners, and I think, our programs have been downloaded on multiple platforms, well over 60 million times this year alone. So the emails, I've got over 40,000 in my inbox right now. So is there so yes, I mean, there is a desire for this information, and I think people, we're doing our own little part to awaken the spirits of people, and I believe that I believe in what we're doing. I really do. But look, we got to catch a loose.
I'm so pleased that I can contribute with something. Good or bad or whatever, that depends on what the audience thinks. But I feel that this is something I like to keep up and make a bookmark for, and that is the Hagmann and Hagmann report. Am I correct in that?
Yes. You've come to the right place. Stop and shop and bookmark us and check in with us once in a while. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I certainly will. And please take another happy-go-lucky caller. I thank you for your attention.
All right, sir.
God bless you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
We're going to move right along here. Yeah. And the caller, one point I think that needs to be remembered most is that we are complacent, and the things that we take for granted, the running water, the electricity, when those things go away. I mean, if we can't survive without those things now, learn how to survive without them now, we're not going to make it when it happens.
Well, Joe, and I know we have callers on the line, but let me just say this. I remember as a child, my great aunt...
Before running water?
I'm serious. I remember as a child, my great aunt lived outside of Rochester, New York. We actually took a train to her house. By today's standards, I would even say it would be called a house, but I remember having to go out and get water from the well, and she had no running water in the house, and she had an outhouse. And at my young age, and this is in the, it was early in the 60s, I thought, wow, as a young child, I did not, it was kind of a shock to me. And I remember asking my mother, I said, well, why doesn't Aunt Betty here have a bathroom? Or what, inside her house, that is. Or how come she doesn't have the water that runs inside the house? And it wasn't so much, it was just a shock to me. It was a shock to my system as a young child to think that there were people living like this. And, of course, a lot of people were living like that. I'm not saying a lot, in the urban areas, but you had even down south, quite a few people like that. So you're too young to remember that. You've never had. Have you? Let me ask you, Joe. I mean, you're 30 years old. You're my son. Have you ever been to a house where they had no running water and you had to use an outhouse?
Only on a house I was building with during construction sites.
Yeah, the porta potties, right? No. What I'm saying is. Yeah, and no. You've got. Look, I look over there. You've got a cell phone on your desk. I won't have one. Thank you very much. But you got a cell phone. I remember party lines.
Party line?
Yeah, party lines.
What is that?
Oh man.
Let's go to a call. Ladies and gentlemen. Let's take another call. 509. We're coming to you next. Thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Good evening, or gentlemen, good night, whatever it is. Doug, whenever I was but a wee lad, we lived in a house that had a hand water pump and an outhouse.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And whack him upside the head a couple times, that Nerf bat for me, for not knowing what a party line is.
I'm going to tell you something. The Nerf bat is being broken in very well, and I want to.
I seriously don't know. I'll wait. You can give me an explanation after the show.
Yeah, and caller, do you remember when you actually had? And I'm not sure. This is a lot of it was geographic in nature, where you pick up the phone and you actually had to go through the operator. Did you ever have?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm only 55, but I was in areas where yes, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I used a dial-up phone before.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Probably hurt his finger. Anyway, I'm going to say this. I really love hearing Uncle Stan. Now, he's not my uncle, but he kind of feels like the way he is so matter-of-fact and the way he speaks, and it's just comfortable to listen to him. It's like you're over at your uncle's house having a cup of coffee, sitting with your feet up on the chair in front of the fireplace with him.
Yeah, isn't he great? And I tell you, I remember hearing him on Coast to Coast, out of state, and I'm thinking, boy, what a tremendous intellect this man is, and I never, ever in my wildest dreams would ever think that I would ever be able to talk with him like that. And you're right; it's like sitting around a campfire or a fireplace with a cup of coffee, or at the kitchen table with him. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Yeah, at the kitchen table, having a cup of coffee. Yeah, I've listened to him for years. Anyway, The first gentleman, I'm sorry, I think we do need to paint the devil on the wall because that's who we're facing.
Good point.
And trying to deal with people, I deal with them all the time, and you got these rapture people, pre everything, going to get raptured out, and I said, well, what happens if you're wrong? Well, I'll just come over to your house, and I looked at him and I said, well, I'm going to be worried about feeding my grandchildren, and I guarantee you're going to catch that rapture. They kind of look at you like, yeah, put a couple cans of beans away, whatever. But some of the ideas he has are great. But the one idea that I learned about, I really can't remember if I seen it or if I read it. I've had several strokes, so sometimes putting the information together isn't quite right. But you can make yourself a PVC tube and use a ball bearing, and you drill a hole in the bottom of a cap. And you have to, before you do all that, you want to make sure that your little ball bearing is going to seal it good, and then you can drop that down in a well on a string, and that ball bearing will pop up. The air, the water will push through, and then you pull that pipe back up out of the ground, and you got water. So, for a lot of people, I'm on Social Security disability, so I try to dream up what I can as trying to make absolutely nothing work.
Wow. Well, I've got a well. I live on a property with a water well, and I have nightmares about power outages and thinking, okay, how do you get the water from the ground? And that's a great way, and even put it on a what do you call those, pulley or like a pulley system. You put it on a pulley, just on a string. Good. I would use a good grade of string. You don't want to lose it, or a high grade Dacron. You don't want to lose it, and Dacron is really strong for the diameter, so you could actually pull water out of quite a deep well. All right, but, that's fantastic. The power outage thing, it sparks me whenever everybody talks about a power outage. Here where I'm at, the power went down most of the day and night, and it came on, I think, about 3:30. I left the lights on so it'd wake me up. And this power outage was severe enough because of the winds that hit the whole valley, upper, right on down through the lower valley here. And it actually stopped the trains because they couldn't make the switches work. Wow. And and I thought then, now that perked me up. Everything's dark, and that perked me up. So I went on high alert because I don't trust what's going on. But, boy, that really made me think, and I thought, I wonder how many people don't have a gallon of water. They've made the last flush on their toilet a long time ago, and they're wondering what they're going to do, But I live in a situation here where I have a shallow well, and it goes dry for the most part every year, so I can't use my regular pump. So I have a backup 12-volt system set up so I can at least pull water and put it in tanks, like a 55-gallon drums I have there. I fill them up and then disconnect the pump from the well and put a foot valve on it and just pump right out of my drums to pump my system up. Right. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Just a little imagination. Yeah, it's real easy to do. And, people in an emergency situation, I have enough battery power that if I run out of power, I could pump the water that would keep me sustained throughout a whole winter. Wow. Okay. So, people need to. It only takes a little imagination, and for people who don't have to deal with things, they can't imagine it. So I would say for some people, Friday night, whenever everybody's home, everybody have dinner, go over to the panel and shut the power off for the weekend. And then decide by the time everybody's ready to kill each other Sunday, okay, these are the games we need to go buy. I guess we need candles, 100-hour candles, and we need batteries, and it was just an experiment because we're going to be out of power here pretty quick. I see things happening
that says you better be prepared.
Yeah, exactly. You remind me of something. I had a deck of cards that I put in a bag for, the eventuality. I mean, obviously, when things do go bad, there's still going to be entertainment required. And my 23-year-old daughter looked at me and she said, "What are those?" And I said, "Cards, and playing cards." And she said, "Well, why do you need those?" And I said, "Well, to play cards with." "Well, I could do it on my phone, solitaire, the computer." And I'm thinking, oh man, wow. And
I'm just amazed how people couldn't live without their phone.
Exactly, and that in and of itself, right? I mean, I don't get that addiction, and that's really, it really is an addiction. I really have a problem with that, but. We need to unplug. You're right. Unplug for the weekend.
I think it is an addiction. It's an addiction to something to keep their mind busy because people have given up the ability to use their imagination. They've given it up.
Wow, it's a good statement. Yeah, you're right, man.
But
wow.
I've gone through the mountains for a month at a time on horseback into the wilderness, and nothing makes me happier than to shut this phone off and pull the battery out and not touch it for a month.
I'm fully with you there. I totally understand. The only, speaking of horses, I'm trying to think of how I could stable a horse on my property. I think that would probably be against zoning regulations, but
call him Lucky and call him Lucky and teach him how to eat dog bones.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
God bless you. Boy, what a great.
God
what
bless
a great.
you guys. Hey, and I'm sure glad to hear the wife is doing better.
Well, Joe, that's yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. She is doing better.
You're welcome. Pray for her.
Well, yeah, I so much appreciate your prayers. As I said yesterday, they were definitely felt. Her recovery was, I would say, so much easier due to the prayers that were given and due to the support. And God bless you, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you, and thank you, Lord, for answering numerous prayers. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Thank you. God bless. Have a great night. A great call.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the zoning regulations, you weren't worried about that when you built that extension on the back there. I'm kidding.
What, my missile silo?
Yeah. We're going to take another call, but one quick headline here. I just have to read this. Olympians face call to boycott Sochi at 100-day countdown event and explain why they'll compete. An official Winter Olympics countdown event was disrupted in New York City's Times Square on Tuesday by gay rights activists protesting Russia's anti-gay laws. The 100-day countdown, the U.S. hopefuls heard chanting calling for the United States Olympic Committee to boycott the games at Sochi. As the publicized media hour began, members of the activist group Queer Nation lined up a crowd barrier and unfurled banners with the words "Don't buy Putin's lies" and "Boycott homophobia," and chanted while 4 athletes were interviewed on stage. On Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin assured the International Olympic Committee that the host country would make the athletes and guests feel comfortable, regardless of nationality, race, or sexual orientation. But yet these queer groups, that's their name, lined up and, you know what? Boycott. Don't go. If you're a gay athlete, don't go. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares? We're going to take one last call before the show ends. 727. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, good evening, guys. How are you guys doing?
Very well. What's up? Good.
Hey, just a comment on you guys' show here. These guys ain't going to be able to escape any of the judgments that God's going to bring forth. If he's going to destroy everything, he's going to destroy it and make it all new. These guys trying to invent technology to get away from God's judgments and going out of space. And he made space. He made the angels and everything else. And
True.
And I was, something came to mind. You guys, in Matthew chapter 4, when Jesus Christ went out into the wilderness and the devil tempted him with his first temptation there to turn the stones into bread because he was hungry and he had been out there in the wilderness for 40 days on a fast. And, one of those things that God just naturally does, and I do believe that the believers, children of God, he's going to protect them, he's going to provide for them, and supernaturally he's going to come through for them. Yes, you do prep, yes, you do prepare and everything else, just as you were living, your regular day life. But
you have to be responsible, and I'm glad you added that. I'm glad, caller. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm glad you added that because
go ahead.
there are people out there who say, well, God will provide while doing nothing to assist God in providing for them. So we need to be proactive in that respect. So go ahead. Thank you for adding that anyway.
Yeah, and then when they came out of Egypt, okay, go ahead.
No. I guess the last thing I'll say is this. You know what? I lost that thought. Go ahead and continue.
All right. Yeah, when they came out of Egypt, he fed them quail, and that fell out of the sky, and he gave them manna to eat because, the tension is just going to heat up so much more. Our bodies, they're already put to a maximum strain with everything that they're throwing at us. These guys, it's like, Stephen Quayle talks about, it comes down to angel wars. That's what it's coming down. There's nothing new under the sun. These guys have had this technology for thousands of years, and now it's just all starting to bubble up because they're trying to implement it and force it all upon us. And through all the manipulation and control, through the bankers and the Illuminatis, the Jesuits, and all this stuff that they're throwing at us, and they're just coming bluntly forward, and they're showing their face for who they are, as the wickedness that they are, and who they worship, which is Lucifer and the fallen angels. And this is where the battle's at, and this is where the Book of Acts is going to come to life. And I do believe that you see the evangelists that are traveling the country and the world that are casting out demons and everything else, and it's all principalities and powers. And I do believe that tonight's talk show that you were talking about was meeting those needs in those third world countries and people living off of just survival and living off of what they have and praying for God to come through in certain tough situations. Because I've been there. I grew up in poverty. I had nothing, and I know that we prayed a lot through a lot of those situations. And, God came through for us, whether it was a gallon of water or, water that somebody else gave us, and it just happened. And cooking outside, some of your guests were talking about that. So, it's just one of those things that's just going to, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And he will protect us all the way through. I don't know if you believe that. But, yeah, do prepare because it's going to be all mayhem. It's all going to break out. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be pandemonium, everybody running all over the place.
Yeah, and it's not just preparing for us. When we prepare, it's, at least for me, we're preparing for everybody around us also because, so many people are going to be lost and helpless. And if we don't have the basic resources to build a community and build a structured, group,
Amen.
Then we're going to have nothing anyway. So we can't look at it as a selfish prepare for myself thing. It's a prepare for the community.
Yeah, Oath Keepers seems to be doing a pretty good job there on that too. That's something I was thinking of joining was the Oath Keepers and